So the title of this video is Women Are Not Smart. And the title is obviously incendiary, and it's there for two reasons. It's there like a bug zapper to attract two particular types of people. One, the angry, misogynistic, internet loner guy, probably identifies as an MRA. He sees the title, Women Are Not Smart, and he chuckles to himself. Damn right they're not. I'm gonna watch this video and revel in the stupidity of women because all those women rejected me in high school, and I'm fucking pissed.
Well done, TJ. You've played me like a fiddle.
And the other group of people I'm trying to attract are the feminazi cunts who hate men, who think men are pigs, who just relish when a video like this comes out so they can pounce on it and talk about how it's indicative of how misogynistic and patriarchal our culture still is. But the real reason the video is entitled Women Are Not Smart is because women are not smart. Nor are they stupid, nor are they of average intelligence, nor are men smart or stupid or of average intelligence. A woman might be smart or stupid or average. A man might be smart or stupid or average. These groups, the two sexes, and all of the different gender affiliations floating around out there, they all have people that run the intelligence gamut from super genius to Tea Partier. I won't say that all generalizations are wrong, because that itself is a generalization, and that, of course, creates a paradox, but I will say that most generalizations about groups of people are wrong because they fail to account for the diversity within any group of people.
I disagree. Generalizations are there for a reason. This does not make all generalizations right. It makes them right in general, which is why we call it a generalization. TJ. You yourself are guilty of this. How many times do you talk about Christians, Muslims, feminists, Republicans, Tea Party members, in a way that bundles them together and defines them by their most common, most prominent, characteristics that differentiate them from some other group? I'll go ahead and answer for you. You do it often, and rightfully so.
Like, I'm a male, and Dick Cheney is a male, but that's about where the similarities end. I mean, we both have penises and testicles, and I've seen pictures of his dick through his pants, and wow, it's bigger than mine.
Is that a banana in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
They named him Dick for a reason, but that's a total aside. I don't have much in common with Dick Cheney. I don't share his value system. I don't share his personality. I don't share his beliefs about what's actually going on in the world. Him and I could not be more at odds. I mean, the fact that we both have male genitalia and we both have Y chromosomes and we both identify as male probably doesn't really inform you much about either of us by itself. It really doesn't say much about a person just to say, this person's male, this person's female. And everyone understands that, and yet we're allowed to attribute things to the sexes, like men are pigs, women are smart. And we're supposed to make believe that that makes sense when it doesn't. I'm male and Bill Gates is male, but that doesn't mean that I share the privilege of his immense wealth. But you know what happens if you push that notion aside? The notion that men have certain traits and women have certain traits. You know what happens if you just expel that and say, fuck it, I am just going to approach people as individuals and see what they're like on a one-on-one basis, not base my judgment of them on the group that they belong to. You know what happens when you do that? You discover that you're right. You're right. Those differences don't really fucking exist. I would go so far as to call them a myth. Now, don't get me wrong. You can say that men are generally more prone to do this, or women are generally more prone to do this, but what that is meaningless.
So you are now saying it is okay to generalize, after telling us not to generalize? You know, TJ, in general, I'm confused.
Because both sexes All gender identifications, they all encompass a huge, enormous range of different belief structures, of different philosophies, of different personalities, of different emotional makeups, of different intelligence levels, of different types of intelligence. It's all there. The gamut is run, okay? So what generally might be true for any one group is not going to be true in every specific instance, and therefore the generalization is functionally fucking useless.
Okay, I get what you mean, that we should do our best to not hold others accountable for the actions and predilections of the group they pertain to. However, generalizations are not functionally useless. I suppose this is where I need to give some examples. If you have a friend coming over to your house and they are bringing their new Muslim friend, a person you have not yet met, you can generalize that they are probably one of those Muslims that don't eat pork, and so when making dinner you might want to skip cooking the ham, and substitute it with something else, or heck, you just take him to Subway. If we rule out belief systems, and talk about not generalizing people due to their biology, I insist that generalizing is still beneficial. If you are a woman on a date, is it wrong to assume the guy you are on a date with wants to get laid? Is it wrong to assume that the tighter and skimpier the outfit she wears is, the more she will put the idea of sex into his mind? If you're a guy on a date, it's probably a safe bet that you shouldn't go on and on about how you're stuck in a dead-end job and can't make ends meet. Who knows, maybe financial stability means nothing to this woman, but it probably does. Generalizing about this and just not mentioning your financial troubles would probably be the smarter course of action. If a man and woman on a first date give each other their good night kiss, in general the woman can probably slip her hands down to the front of the man's crotch and frisk his banana. She can probably do this with no negative consequence. A man on the other hand probably shouldn't try, in the middle of the good night kiss, to slip his hand down to her pussy and give it a feel. There tends to be a different reaction when this happens when a guy does it to a girl than when a girl does it to a guy. This is generalizing, and it is a useful tool. Biologists can't study the behavior of any species unless they make observations and start generalizing. Generalization is a necessary part of learning about them. Doctors use generalizations to diagnose patients. Sometimes this is disastrous, because many diseases have overlapping symptoms. However, it is typically better for a doctor to assume you have a stomach virus than assume you have some rare African virus that hasn't had an occurrence in 30 years. Sometimes it is better for the doctor, the patient, and the industry as a whole, to observe 5 symptoms and say, you have the flu, than it is to run every test for every illness there is to reduce chance of a misdiagnosis. Generalizations help. Not every time the sky becomes dark with clouds does it mean it's going to rain, but it would still be smart to generalize, and roll up your car window, or maybe even cancel the picnic. When MRAs and feminists talk about men in a society and women in a society, they can't do this without looking at men and women as a group, and there is no use in looking at men and women as a group if you can't generalize. After all, if you're not generalizing, then you can't really define them as a group to begin with. Not every man or every woman has to be like that, for the idiosyncrasy being discussed to be valid. Sometimes you can even talk about a rare anomaly that doesn't even apply to the average man or average woman, but applies considerably more to one than the other, so long as you make it clear that you are talking about the behavior as a rare anomaly. In fact, that might be something both MRAs and feminists need to work on a little more, when talking about a rare anomaly in either of the sexes, to make sure the audience understands that the proclamation is in reference to a rare anomaly. But again, generalizing about things, individuals, and groups, is an essential part of learning, and the reality is, we're all going to generalize regardless of whether we have a general consensus that generalizing is wrong or not. We're going to do it, because it's a part of the learning process. Not every time you drop an iPod or a smartphone does it break, but we generalize the probability and realize to handle these expensive devices with care. We generalize all the time. It's how our brains function. The issue is when we apply this same essential function to human beings we get all uppity and politically correct and we start getting obsessed with our notions of free will and individuality. In other words, generalization is an essential mental function that we all perform constantly, and we only declare that generalizing is wrong when it applies to our political belief systems and moral compass. In the Western culture, we have a fear of saying that any group of people, group as defined by biology, had biological-driven behavioral tendency. But all in all, we should reduce our generalizations about individuals and be careful not to judge the individual for the stigmas of their group.
Discard it! You'll find that it's not a very useful tool for looking at the world. It gives you false impressions. Because here's what happens, and it happens with feminists, it happens with MRAs, it happens with racists, it doesn't matter. Let's say you're a sexist, misogynist man, and you're driving along in your car and someone cuts you off, and you see it was a woman. You're a misogynist, so you automatically think, fucking women, fucking stupid cunts, can't fucking drive, blah, 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 blah. Now, let's say you keep on driving, later on, you're cut off again. And this time the driver's a man, and you think to yourself, what an asshole. What a piece of shit. That guy is such an asshole. That one specific guy, he's a douchebag. You see what happens here? It's confirmation bias, alright?
Yes, TJ, that's confirmation bias, not generalization. And you're right that generalizing can lead to confirmation bias. You spot the behavior because you're looking for the behavior because you presume and expect the behavior. The fact that confirmation bias can be the outcome of an undisciplined mind that uses generalizations does not invalidate the usefulness of generalizing. It's analogous to saying that a person who becomes weight conscious and goes on a diet may develop an eating disorder. This is certainly true, but this would only happen to a person who had a mental predisposition for this, and so fear of developing an eating disorder is not justification to do away with diet and exercise. And even if you disagree, and continue to believe generalizing is inherently a destructive or misleading mental process, too bad. The human brain is wired to generalize, and we're still going to apply this to our fellow humans whether we admit it or not. We apply it to life in general, and that includes people, even if it is morally incorrect, even if it is politically incorrect, we're still going to do it. I would argue since generalization is both useful, and a fundamental part of how the mind works, that we focus on when and how to apply generalizations to people, rather than insisting we just stop doing it.